Welcome to Just Healing, where we rediscover humanity in our conversations around trauma and celebrate all the unique ways we love and heal. I'm one of your Season 2 co-hosts, Dr. Debra. Trauma doesn't exist in a bubble. Healing shouldn't either. Let's listen, let's learn, let's heal.
We're not monolithic. We don't have one identity. We don't have one experience. We have multiple experiences, multiple identities. And I think those are so important. We have to pay attention to all of those things that are going on that make us human, that make us who we are. Because if we have compassion with each other, if we laugh with each other, that helps us learn because it makes it real. It makes it human. It makes it alive.
And welcome to this next episode of Just Healing. You saw me introduce the other two co-hosts, Jace Barron and Dr. Greg Kaysen. And now you're going to meet Michael Munson, and he's going to come up and I'm going to pass the torch on to him for the next set of episodes. So Michael, how are you?
Hey, good, Debra. How are you?
I am excited. I am so excited about what you're going to bring to the Just Healing podcast. And why don't you introduce yourself first so people can get familiar with you?
So I'm Michael Munson. I use he, him, or they, them pronouns. I'm the executive director of Forge, which is a national trans anti-violence organization. We've been around for 29 years, a long time. We mostly do training and technical assistance, which can mean a lot of different things to lots of different people. And my role with Forge is to be our primary trainer and do all of those admin things and make coffee and all those other good things.
You're the executive director. You travel around, you speak. You did an amazing job at my script conference, talking about trans and police brutality. And I mean, you do a lot for that community.
We do a lot, yes. But as an executive director, sometimes you have to make coffee too. Sometimes you got to do, those get your hands dirty things. But yes, I love to travel. I love doing conferences. So yeah, I mean, training is my jam. So that's really the exciting part of my job. But Forge doesn't do a lot of direct service. So the way I get to interact with people is through you, through a podcast, through a webinar, through in-person trainings, which is really, really fun. Say hi, people who are listening, because, this is the way I love to interact with people. In person is best, but webinars, podcasts are good too. So,
yeah, but you're good about getting squeezes through the screen. I can always feel your warmth.
Squeeze. Yeah, exactly.
So how did you get involved with Men Healing? You've been here a while. I've known you a while, but tell people kind of that story and how that came about.
Well, when I've asked other people how they've gotten involved, it has almost always gone back to, well, Jim recruited me to do X, Y, or Z. So my story is with Jim Struby, tracking me down, connecting with me at a male survivor conference probably 15 years ago, maybe it was even longer than that. Really, really, really long time ago. And he was persistent and kept coming back every, years, every 6 months, every whatever. So, and I finally said yes. So I've been on the board now for 3 or so years, maybe a little bit less than 3 years. And it was really great when he asked the last time, hey, you want to be on our board? And I was able to say yes, because I had the time and I really care about men healing and male survivors. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, I think this is right now. And it's been one of the really good decisions that I've made, because I really, really, really love Jim. I love men healing. I love the staff. I love facilitators. So it's a really, really good bunch of folks. So my story is not very exciting, but Jim was persistent and I don't wear down easily, but he wore me down enough to be on board. So yeah.
Yeah, Jim's like that. You fall in love with him, right? I mean, that's why I've been here so long. You can't help but love you, right? And I think I was one of your first points of contact. I interviewed you or something.
Might have been. That's right. Yes, you did. So yes. You're one of those people that are in on the early part of my journey officially.
Yeah, and the Men Healing is such a safe space. And now we're creating this podcast for other people to have a safe space, right? And I know you've watched some of the episodes. What do you think you're going to bring for people to help promote the mission of Men Healing?
It's a really good question, and I did, I have watched your episodes, and one of the things that I loved about yours is that they're all different, right? They're like they're there's a little bit from here, there's a little bit from here, there's a little bit from there, and so I'm hoping to bring the same kind of thing of like, to show that when we heal and when we talk about issues around men who are surviving, that it's not just like, oh, there's this little slice, oh, we do talk therapy and we can heal, but we can talk about a lot of different things that relate to healing, that relate to our experiences, whether they're our experiences or our siblings or our friends or our community members. So I'm really hoping to bring some different topics. Yours were very wide and diverse, and I've got a bunch of little snippets of people that are very different from all of the ones that you've shared so far. So I'm excited about that.
Anyone you want to share that's going to be a guest as a little teaser?
Good. So we've got 5 people that we're still kind of, negotiating with, but we have 2. Well, we've got 3 for sure that are locked in and ready to go. So one is Karen Carroll, and she is a forensic nurse, and she's been a forensic nurse for a really long time. I think that she would say that as well. She's a veteran nurse examiner. She works with the International Association for Forensic Nurses. So, one of the kind of the landmark organizations for forensic nurses. And she works a lot with male survivors, and she has over the years, and she just has an amazing volume of knowledge about male survivors who are seeing folks directly post-assault, as well as what some of those longer-term health implications are for people who do or don't receive medical care post-assault. So that's person number 1. She's fantastic in We Play, so it should be a really playful engagement, even though it's a really serious subject. I think a lot of people don't want to think about or talk about medical or forensic, evidence collection. It's a kind of a scary topic, and a lot of us don't go for forensic exams. But she and I have known each other for quite a while, and we've got a very playful interaction. So I think it'll be a really positive way to talk about some really serious issues. So that's exciting number 1. Exciting number 2 is Jen Landice, and she works with SPARK, which is the stalking. I always get the name wrong. The Stalking Prevention and Awareness Resource Center, which is kind of the only stalking-based organization in the country. They're part of Equitas. Forge has partnered with them on many different projects, but she has just an amazing amount of volume of knowledge about stalking in general and the intersections of stalking with other forms of crime. So with sexual harm, with intimate partner violence, with hate-motivated crimes. Some of the stuff that we're working with her on right now are some of those intersections between like technology crimes and stalking and the hate-motivated crimes that are happening against certain populations, like folks of color, trans folks, queer folks, and how that all plays out. So number 3 and number 4 are, we're still finalizing, so I'll drop some hints maybe a little bit later about them.
Okay.
But the 5th person is actually somebody on Forge's staff, Emil Rudisell, who is, I think they're fantastic because they're on our staff. So why would they not be fantastic? But we are probably going to talk about some of the intersections between genderqueer identities, and that's their language. So I know sometimes people get weird about like, well, that's not the current language anymore, but that's their language. We'll probably talk about some prevention challenges right now, specifically around some of the legislative bans on who can talk about what in schools in terms of like gender identity, sexual orientation, healthy relationships. So how does that play out when kids are not getting good sexual health information or healthy relationships? And we probably will also talk about the navigating of when you're a provider and you're working with people in a specific community that's also your community. And so how does it play out when it taps into your own trauma or your own personal experiences, and how do you maintain your sanity when you're working with populations that are similarly, affected by what's going on? So those are the 3 for sure. And then 2 extras are, in the wings, and they'll be exciting.
Well, it's all exciting. I mean, I am a forensic psychologist, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be like an amazing thing. You know, people say they're a kid in a candy store. Like, I'm just swimming in the bowl, like just going all around. Like, I mean, that's going to be like
Right.
just to hear about it, right? I mean, you know, people don't want to talk about these things, like, and they're very sensitive topics, but especially for men to come out and say these things, because I hear it all the time in the jails and in the court, and the guy is the one in jail, but sometimes it's the woman who has caused all these problems, right? So what a great way to educate people.
Yeah. And that's, you know, and I always forget that you're forensic in your background. I don't know why I forget that, but you know, I think we do forget that, right? You know, like any gender person can be a victim or a survivor. Any gender person can be an offender or a perpetrator. Like, yeah, let's talk about that, and let's be real about it, because that's what happens.
Right. Yeah. It's not stuck on one gender. I mean, everybody can do this. Everybody's capable, and people don't realize everybody's capable of everything. It's just when that switch is turned on, can you stop that switch? And some people can't, and they keep going. And that's what we need to educate on: how to stop it, how to prevent it, and all of those things. So, yay, you know?
Yay. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I shouldn't say it's fun. I mean, people think it's weird when I say that things are fun, but like, it is fun to talk about things in ways that people don't always hear about. So we all need to know about some things, and hopefully we can do that in a way that people can hear it, that people can take in that information and they can do something with it, rather than just go, I don't want to hear about it because it's too scary.
Right. It's all about the package, right? And drawing people in, right? And so with that, you know, one of the things I wanted to talk about is, like, you know, people always hear me say, let's listen, let's love. I always want people to say, it's not just the words. Am I listening to what you're saying, right? And taking it in, and am I responding with love, right? So here at Just Healing, we have let's listen, right? Let's learn, let's heal. And I'm wondering, how are you going to bring like listening to the viewers?
It's such a good question, right? Because, you know, podcasts are like this one-way street. At least you think they're a one-way street, right? Of people are talking and then the other people are listening. But, you know, when you ask that question, it's like, well, how do I listen, right? How am I validating survivors? How am I doing that, as well as how are they listening? And I guess, you know, when I think about this question, I'm like, you know, I care a lot about survivors. I care a lot. And I hope that shines through in everything that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So if a survivor's listening, I hope that they know that my care, my compassion is part of how I'm listening to them, because I'm kind of holding the space for them, even though we're not having a dialogue in that moment. Like in a podcast, we're not dialoguing, but I hope that they feel that container is a little bit of a space for them, that I'm listening. And, you know, as I think about this, it's like, well, you know, how else do people feel heard? You know, they feel heard because they're believed, they're validated. They can go, oh my God, that's what happened to me, or that's like me, or that's what happened to my friend. They can feel affirmed. They can go, yeah, wow. You know, yeah, that was normal. I mean, that's not normal, but this is a normal response to trauma. You know, I think all of those things help people feel listened to, even when we aren't directly going back and forth with them.
Just our body language, or just how we say the words, or the words we choose. People don't realize word choice is so important for some people.
It is.
You know, and it really shows you're paying attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and just as we're talking right now, it's like, you know, we're on we're not on a Zoom, but we're on a screen, and I'm looking at you, but like, I can tell that you're listening to me, and I hope you can tell that I'm listening to you. And that's how our bodies are. That's how we're connecting visually, and we're nodding. And so, I hope that comes through when we're talking to people.
Like you can feel the warmth, right? Yeah.
Right. You know,
I remember the first time I met you in person was at the script conference, and I was debating my outfit choice, and here I come out in this big ball gown. And it says script, and you just looked at me and you're like, I love it. And you gave me the biggest hug. Like, you didn't even judge me. Like, you're just like, what? Because I think it can be a lot to take, right? And you're just like, that is amazing.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's part of part of being human is so great. It's like, you can embrace the whole thing, like whatever it is, however it is. It's like, it was freaking fantastic. And you were big in life as you are on the screen. And it's like, damn, that was cool. That was great.
Cool.
So
that's how I knew you were listening. You knew who I was. That was just me, right? There was nothing else.
And we tease about glitter. Yes.
Yeah, it was all about the glitter, man. So
yeah.
So
we gotta have some glitter.
We gotta have pretty, and I love that, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the other things is that we promote healing, right? And actually listening. Let's go in order. we promote listening, learning, and healing. There we go. Yeah. So how are we going to promote, right, learning with your show?
I think there's a lot of things. I mean, I've kind of given you the preview of like some of the guests, and a lot of those topics are new to people, right? They're not what we talk about at the dinner table with our families or our friends. So I'm hoping that the learning comes just from having topics that might not be, everyday conversations that people are having. And I'm aware that some of these conversations might not be applicable to the person that's listening, but it might be something that their friend needs to know or the neighbor down the street. So I'm hoping that some of that learning is like, okay, I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to listen anyway because I'm kind of interested. And what is taken in, I hope can get shared with other people. Because all of the things that we're going to talk about are relevant to somebody, or it's relevant to somebody at some point in their life. Maybe not right now. Maybe it's going to be in 10 years from now. So I hope that those little kernels kind of get planted, or the seeds get planted, and people will carry them with them, share them with other people. I think that the other piece is, we've talked about this already, but like the kind of the compassion of how to talk about things, that helps people learn when there's realness. I mean, like, we've also laughed today, and I certainly hope that I will bring that, and that my guests will bring that into our conversations, right? Because if we have compassion with each other, if we laugh with each other, that helps us learn because it makes it real. It makes it human. It makes it alive. So I'm hoping that those are some of the things that will bring learning into this space. And the guests that, I've got lined up, they've just got so much to learn from. I mean, they're just like full of knowledge. Like, the people that I've mentioned already are just like, they are like the best people that I can imagine having those conversations with. So I think people will find them infectious, and it'll be hard to not learn from them.
Well, I will just hopefully be a sponge, I mean, the more you can give and, educate, the more that it is. And that promotes that whole healing, right? And so is that kind of how you're going to promote that healing part of this podcast?
I think so. Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, isn't that's yes. Yes.
Yes to all of it, right?
All of it. Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, is there something I haven't asked you that you want everybody to know about you and what you're going to bring and who you are as a person?
We've shared, it's like, I hope people will see the blend of the serious and the playful. I hope people will get some of the complexity of what we're talking about. And that's about who I am, who our guests are, and recognizing who's listening, and the complexity of the lived realities of people, that we're not monolithic. We don't have one identity. We don't have one experience. We have multiple experiences, multiple identities. And I think those are so important that we don't always pay attention to what happens when we have multiple experiences, multiple identities, and as we live our lives. And it just we have to pay attention to all of those things that are going on that make us human, that make us who we are. So I hope that some of that shines through, both from me, from the presenters, from, maybe some of what we're hearing from other people, some feedbacks from your podcasts, feedback that we're all hearing of what people want, so that we can help fulfill some of those needs. And that didn't really answer your question, but those are...
You kind of did, but I have a follow-up to it anyways, because one of the things that I think that Forge does well, right, and what you said, everything's not monolithic or whatever, but it gets out of the silos, right? It gets people sharing, it gets people connected, right? And so I'm I'm trying to think how to word this, but I'm thinking that your podcast could be one of those things of how to connect, like let's just connect, right? And connect this person to this person, kind of like a telephone game, and how you did the speak out, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Forge and Men Healing partnered 3 years ago, a couple years ago, on a project that we called the Trans and Non-Binary Speak Out. And it was similar to what Men Healing did the year before, which was called Story Project. Right, exactly. Where, we worked so intensely together, Men Healing and Forge, to craft this curriculum with folks that were telling their stories and these fantastic, creative, beautiful, like you couldn't have imagined it before going into this process. And we ended up with 4 people telling their stories in 4 very unique ways. And it was really about the connection of folks. Like everybody made a connection with everybody, and all those connections were different. Like, so all the people that were participating in the Speak Out really created bonds with each other. I think those of us who were staffing also created bonds. I mean, we learned so much together. I mean, it's amazing how much can be learned when you sit with people and you don't rush a process, but when you think like, how are we going to create this together? How are we going to work together? How are we going to honor these differences of who people are and what they're bringing? And, I mean, to give some examples, we had some folks that were neurodiverse and really needed to have the way we structured the kind of the educational portions of the Speak Out. We needed to do things differently than what we had planned. So we did it. And everybody was good with it because people could say, I feel safe enough to say what my needs are. And then we figured out a way that we could do that. So like, those are the pieces of like connecting to people because they felt safe enough to share. We felt creative enough to come up with a solution for whatever it was that we needed to craft. So, and it was a beautiful end result of 4 amazing stories from 4 amazing people. And I think all of the people that staffed it and participated were really changed by that process.
I was changed. I got to be involved in the first part and I had to drop off because of other stuff. But I remember meeting Tristan, and I'm choking up now because just the interactions I had with her changed my life, right? She was just memorable. And I wouldn't have had that experience if Forge and you haven't been who you were in your vision for things, right? And it really made a connection, and I learned so much from that,
And that was just a little teeny interaction. So yeah. And I think that's another one of those things that, sometimes we forget that those little interactions, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, they can really be transformative. They can change people's lives, by what we hear, by what we feel in our bodies when we're with somebody. So thank you for bringing up Tristan. And, Tristan is somebody that is no longer on this planet, but has stuck with me and obviously has stuck with you, and everybody Tristan met, I think, has a piece of them, with them. So it's
she's
really
transformative.
Amazing.
She taught me to slow down, and just be.
Yeah.
It's a gift. It was a gift.
Yeah.
So if she's listening, thank you.
Yep. Exactly right. Yeah. And we can both sit and cry about it now too.
I know. It's like what a great, transition to what you're going to bring to this, which is absolutely amazing. So with that,
maybe we'll bring crying, right? We'll bring a little bit of tears, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of glitter,
a little bit of memory, like all that stuff of being human. But I think that the humanity that you just brought is going to bring people in, because it brought it out in me just sitting with you. I always get that when I sit with you. I get the feels, And so, with all of that, is there anything else you want to say before I close this out?
I'm just really excited to be part of this. This is a different format for me. So like usually I'm in person doing conferences or doing webinars and have a PowerPoint. So this is really exciting and I'm really happy to be, part of this project, and, having different hosts is really cool. And I'm glad to be, I think I'm number 2 in the line of this series, which is fantastic. And I'm just really excited to be able to have conversations with people that I love and to be able to share them with the world because they're fantastic. So yeah, I mean, it's just really exciting. Really, really exciting.
Well, thank you.
I get to talk to you.
Yeah, you get to spend time with me. But
yeah. And what can be better?
Well, hearts.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. And thank you all for listening. And we had a wonderful conversation with Michael Munson. And oh my God, he's going to bring so much learning. And we are going to listen, we're going to learn, we're going to heal, and probably cry a little bit, but make connections on these episodes of Just Healing, which will be passed on to Michael Munson. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Just Healing. Join us for new episodes throughout 2024, where we will continue to spread the message of hope and healing and welcome Just Healing's 3 new co-hosts, Michael Munson, Dr. Greg Kaysen, and Jace Barron. It's going to be an exciting year. And remember, you are worthy, trauma doesn't define us, and healing is a collective journey. This podcast is produced by myself, Dr. Debra, in collaboration with Men Healing, a national nonprofit dedicated to helping provide accessible resources and community for any male or male-identifying survivors of sexual harm. Men Healing's aim is to help heal, inspire, and break isolation for survivors. You can donate, check out our healing events, videos, and other resources at menhealing.org. If you or someone you know has been a victim of sexual harm and you need to talk to someone, RAIN can help. Call their National Sexual Assault Hotline to speak with a trained staff member who can provide you with confidential crisis support. It's free, confidential, and 24/7. Call 1-800-656-4673.